So today I want to go over one of my favorite kind of introductory kind of presentations. I love this presentation because you can make it anything you want it to be. You can change, you don't have to follow the script. I'm going to show you how to find the script, but you don't have to follow the script. It's just a great little presentation to help you kind of give your clients an education. I also love this presentation if you do webinars or do any kind of lunch and learns or anything. I love this presentation in a crowd. I think that a lot of people, they'll start to pipe up and get involved and interact. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the income game. Now, I'm in the software, and the easiest way to find a presentation is to go over to presentations if you want to visually see it and come right over here to the search button and just start typing the word. I know it's called income game, so I'm looking for income game. If I type the word income, you'll see it pops up right here. I can choose to add this to my favorites if I want to, just by right clicking on it, and this little window will pop up so that I can add it to my favorites. And then anytime I start the software, you'll see it right there. I can come right to it. So if you want to add it to your favorites after seeing my presentation today, that's awesome. It's right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And we're going to start this conversation with the client by, would you say your income is common or uncommon? Now, where this fits into your lexicon is someone say, well, I don't know why I need to talk to you, right? You're talking about, these products that nobody else is talking about. Why? Right? This is a great way to help them understand two key pieces of information, and I'll summarize those at the end of the presentation. But here's what we're looking at. If I'm looking at a presentation I've never presented before, I can click up here on the three dots that are right up here at the top left, and then click on Help on this screen. Okay. And what will happen is it will go out to our help file, and it will actually bring you to a page that has this is the income game intro. It'll have points to cover, an example script, right? And a video that you can watch. Okay, so this will start you with an example script of the first page. And then if I advance to the next screen, it'll give me a video for the second page. So importantly, I want you guys to understand that there's a lot of stuff here. Now, I'm going to start kind of riffing on my own because I love this presentation so much. I've developed a little bit of my own script, which makes it more personable. And also, you guys can do the same thing. Okay, so we're going to ask the client, would you say your income is common or uncommon? Now, the most often response that I get, well, it's not common, but it's not uncommon. I go, okay, great. Well, let's find out what that actually means. Let's put some context to that. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think, Mr. Client? What do you think it takes to be a one percenter in the country? Adjusted gross income household per household. What do you got to earn to be a one percenter? And they think about it for a minute and they go, they'll pick a number, say 1.5 million. And whatever they say, I pop it in. Okay. And I go, great. How about a five percenter? They may go 750. We'll just split that in half. Okay, great. 10 percenter. Let's go 300 there. Awesome. 25 percenter. Let's say 170. All right. And a 50 percenter. And they say $80,000. In fact, I get that number 70 to 80,000 on the 50 percenters. Almost always they kind of go, okay, $40,000 a year, two people in the house, it's $80,000. Because I just put whatever answer they give, right? And I'm not gonna question or correct anything. I'm just gonna type in what they do. Now, if I'm in a group of people, this is a great way because crowds, they'll yell out all sorts of stuff. It's great, right? You want to get that engagement. And then what I do is I start clicking on these question marks to give them the answers. I'm going to start at the one percenter. Okay. To be a one percenter in this country, you have to earn 675. A five percenter is 272. A 10 percenter is 187. 25 percenter is 105. And a 50 percenter is $53,000. Now, I will tell you that once I've gone through these numbers, unequivocally, I get the data question. Where are you getting your numbers from? And I'll even get a little surly with them. I'll say, yep, you caught me, right? It's a very obscure source. There's a source button right up here. And this is the only one in our system I've probably ever clicked on in a presentation, but here it is. And I'll say, yeah, you got me. It's a very obscure source. It's irs.gov. right? The federal government has to report these numbers. Now you'll notice these are the most available numbers are from 2023. Well, you can imagine people file extension on their taxes, all sorts of stuff has to be compiled before we can get some accurate data here. But we update this annually whenever this number is available. Okay. So these are recent numbers as of 2023. All right. So now what does this mean to your client? Well, what I want to ask them is, where were you off? Where, if there was a huge gap, like for this particular person, they kind of think of a one percenter as kind of Warren Buffett or, Bill Gates, or the monopoly guy. And what I want them to understand is that they know one percenters. There's one percenters in their life. There are people in their lives that are one percenters. Now, also, if you look here, I usually figure they're in the ballpark. They think they're upper middle class. They think that's 25%. Where does that number actually fall? Right? It's actually much closer to top 10%. Right? And here is your introduction. Here is your opportunity to say to these people, you do not have common income. You cannot rely on common advice. Okay. So now I can start having the discussion of taxes. Okay. So I have this other set of question marks that I can start to click on. Now, this catches people a lot. Okay, this is not going to add up to 100. I want you guys to understand that. So what am I saying here at the 38% mark? For every dollar that the federal government collects and keeps, right? 38 out of 100 of those dollars come from anyone making 675 or more, right? So when I move that line down to the people and include the 5%ers, some of the 5%ers and the 1%ers, I'm now at 59%. Okay. Come down to the 10%ers. This is anybody making 178,000 adjusted gross income or more. They're responsible for 70% of the tax burden, for 70% of the federal tax collection. Okay. And this is after all the refunds are done and everything, right? Now I'll go down to the 25%ers. 86% of the federal budget comes from anyone making 105,000 or more in their household. Okay, and then I come down here to the 50%ers, right? Anybody making 53,000 or more is responsible for 96% of the tax burden. And here's a great opportunity. I don't know if you guys remember, Mitt Romney ran for president like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and he said federally half the country's carrying the other half. Right. And he got beat up for it. It was awful. Right. But he was only about 3% off. He was right. Federally speaking, half of the tax burden is covered by half of the country. Now, why is that important? Well, if you're in this group of people up here, I'm going to grab my draw tool here. If you're in this group up here, okay, we already know that you pay enough in federal taxes. Okay. So we want to talk to you about finding tax favored, tax-friendly, or if possible, tax-free investments for your future. You already pay enough in federal taxes. You don't need to pay more with your investments. Okay, that's why common advice most often would say, hey, we'll just invest in the market. Well, that's a taxable environment, right? And that works great for somebody down here, right? Because they're not going to pay as much in taxes for that investment as you will up here. Okay. Now, the other thing that we can show here, and I'm just going to show this last part, is we have another little button. Anytime you see a highlighted number, you can click on it. And this represents 1.5 million households. Okay. That's how many people fit into the 1%. And I want that to be known because I don't want people to think of as, this Occupy Wall Street mentality is 1%ers are not rare. They're not the people, they're not actors and lawyers. They're not actors and all those people up in Hollywood. They're lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs, business owners, right? There's a lot of them, right? And then here's your 7.7 million households, right? 38 million households and 76 million households. So the idea being is that, we want you to understand the reason that this advice doesn't come along for everyone is it's not meant for everyone. Tax-free, tax-favored, and tax-friendly investing is something that the people that are in this range, 10%, 25% and above, need to focus some energy on. And you are the person that's going to provide them that advice. But that's why they haven't heard of it. Okay. And like I said, I love this presentation. Go ahead and check out the script. Click the 3 dots on this page and you'll get a different video and a different script. Play with this presentation. Get it in front of as many people as you can because you're going to surprise people. You're going to teach them something that they didn't know about their own finances. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it on over to Don Buddy. And if you ever have any questions, you know how to, you can call us on the support line or send us an email to support@moneytracks.com. And we'll be happy to kind of help you work through these presentations to make sure that you've made them as tight as you can and that they're really impactful for your clients.